And a senior government minister has told Sky News that leaving the European Union would be just mad. The Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Danny Alexander, said no responsible politician should contemplate Britain's exit. One politician who is unlikely to agree with those comments is UKIP's leader Nigel Farage, but there is good news for him today and his party. A Comres poll has put UKIP above the Conservative Party when people were asked who they'd vote for in the European elections. Asked who they would back in the contest, 35% Labour, 23% UKIP and 22% for the Conservatives. The Lib Dems were on just 8%. Well, Nigel Farage joins us live from Westminster. Afternoon. You must be very pleased with this poll, but I'm sure you accept, as well as most people do, that you have become a protest vote and this is mid-term blues for the Conservatives.
Well, remember that in 2009, the last European elections, we came second, not in an opinion poll, but we actually came second in the election itself across the entire UK. So, people do show that, particularly in European elections and under a proportional system, voting UKIP has become a popular thing to do. But, having said that, this is the first time we've ever been second in an opinion poll. And if it is a protest, well, I tell you something, there's a lot to protest about, because we've got three so-called main parties, all of whom resolutely do not want to give the British people a say on their future in the European Union.
How come, so we'll stick on the poll for a minute, but how come you can't translate that to a general election, a domestic general election here, and you can't get MPs?
Well, let's see. We don't know. We've just had a couple of parliamentary by-elections, one in Rotherham and one in Middlesbrough. We came second in both of those, and our best score was the one in Rotherham, where we scored 22% of the vote. At the last general election in 2010, the European question was way down the agenda. Everybody was talking about schools and hospitals, important though those questions are, but the whole question of who governs Britain was hidden from view. I think it's very unlikely that come 2015, that the European question won't be anywhere other than right at the top of the agenda. So next time round, just wait and see.
Interesting, but you know as well as I do that people's thoughts on Europe fluctuate, don't they? One poll will have people saying, if there was a referendum, of course I wouldn't vote to be out of Europe, and then the next one will say the opposite. It's a very changing picture from the British population.
There is a very clear majority of the British people who do not want to be part of the European Union as it is, which means they don't want to be part of a political union. Where they need reassurance is that we can go on doing business with European companies regardless whether we're part of that union or not. And that's why in the last week or two, what you've seen are the giant multinationals, lots of businessmen with knighthoods, lots of former EU commissioners with pensions, doing all they can to scare people into thinking that if we're not part of the European Union, nobody will do business with us. And our message has to be that the most important question in this debate is, are we a democratic self-governing nation? And secondly, we have to point out that European companies sell us far more than we sell them, and there is no prospect of British goods being barred in Europe if we're not part of political union.
At the moment, you only have to deal with domestic and European politics, but when you've got America, the power that is America, showing its concern for our relationship with Europe, that must make you sit up and listen.
Well, the Americans told us we had to go into Vietnam. We didn't do that, thank goodness. The Americans told us they didn't want us to go and retake the Falkland Islands. Mrs. Thatcher ignored them, and we took them back. The Americans urged us to go into Afghanistan and Iraq, and I wished we hadn't. So, we've got a special relationship with America, but that does not mean doing what they tell us to do.
OK, we've had various wars of words with David Cameron, if we can put it like that. The latest is that he's called some of your members pretty odd people. Many will agree with that statement when they read in the Sunday Mirror today that this members' forum expressing extremist and offensive opinions on gay marriage, on paedophilia. What is your response to that?
Well, centre perspective first. There are 21,000 members, and 4 of them have been singled out by the Sunday Mirror as making comments that are objectionable. Am I embarrassed by that? Yes, of course I am. No question about it. I'm not the first party leader that's been embarrassed by some of the members. It happens all the time. But I would say this, I don't want UKIP to become so politically correct and metropolitan that we become a mirror image of the Labour and Conservative parties who've shut down virtually all debate on contentious issues. It's important that UKIP is a party in which we have, people giving opinions. However, there is a line beyond which people should not tread. I've made it absolutely clear, and I've even changed the party constitution, that nobody that's ever been part of the BNP or a racist organisation is even welcome as a member of our party, let alone an officer or a candidate. And as far as the comments on gay marriage are concerned, well, we've had within the party a huge debate with people giving strident opinions on both sides of the argument. And I would say that in one case, what the Sunday Mirror have highlighted is somebody who hasn't just opposed gay marriage on principle, but has been deeply offensive to all homosexuals in this country. And I regret that, and I intend to do something about it.
OK. Do you feel, though, many people say that for some reason, because perhaps your views are particularly in one direction, that your party does attract these people?
All political parties attract all sorts of people with all sorts of ideas. I have made it clear that under my leadership, we've changed the constitution of the party, and extremists of any hue are not welcome in UKIP. And all of those people, those 4 people that have made those comments on our internal party forum, will most certainly not be candidates of UKIP in the future.
Nigel Farage, thank you. Now, in the past hour, the Met Office has issued a weather warning.